customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. This week's episode is from the Customer Experience Executive Panel facilitated by Jess Pischel and recorded at the Customer Service Revolution Conference in 2022. In this tell-all session, the top customer experience executives from multiple industries unveil how to overcome roadblocks and hurdles while avoiding costly mistakes. Find out what it takes to lead an organization's entire customer and employee experience from those who have mastered it. Join Jess Pischel this week and uncover how to gain executive sponsorship, how to gain buy-in from the critics and cynics, how to roll out new training material and implement change management best practices, learn the keys to measure success, and finally, how to implement a program that really sticks and doesn't become flavor of the month. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to your first breakout session at the Customer Service Revolution. So great to have you here. All right, so here's the topics that we're going to cover today, just so you make sure you're in the right session. What is a CXE? We're going to cover who should you get to fill this position, or do you have someone in this role already? What does that look like? What is CXEA? We love acronyms here at the DiJulius Group, TDG. So we use acronyms quite often, so we'll cover what that is. And then finally, how did these individuals implement our information, the DiJulius Group trademark methodology? How did they apply it? And they're going to share their success stories and also their roadblocks, challenges, and hurdles. So the CXE role, the Customer Experience Executive, is the fastest growing position, one of the fastest growing positions. An article in Forbes stated that. I'm sure you're experiencing that. Do you have someone to fill this role, and what does that look like? So you're in luck. We have a Customer Experience Executive Academy where you will really be enrolled in a master's course in customer experience. So you are this course takes place, it's a 12-month course, in Cleveland, Ohio. It's 3 days per quarter, and then there's also virtual sessions. So everyone up here is a graduate of that academy and going to share their results and their success stories. They also, in this academy, you will learn the trademark methodology, which I'll share with you in just a moment. And you'll have access to a network of other CXEs, customer experience executives, who are going through the same thing that you're going through at that same time. So again, you can talk through the challenges, roadblocks, and hurdles that you may experience as you're implementing the methodology. All right, so this is our methodology. John DiJulius created this. It's captured in his 4 best-selling books, which Nicole mentioned on main stage today. But each of these commandments is essentially a 1 or 2 day workshop with at least 3 to 6 months of rollout and implementation that goes along with it. So I don't say that to intimidate you. I just say that because it doesn't happen overnight, right? We can't wave our magic wand and be Chick-fil-A the next day, right? And I think Ryan spoke to that on main stage. It took time to get there. And so it takes time. And that's what you're going to learn, what you would learn in the course, should you be enrolled in the course, and what these individuals are going to talk us through today. So I want to introduce to you my CXE rock stars, all-stars that have been voluntold to be on my panel today. I had to pull some teeth. No, they're great.
Happily here.
Yeah. So first, Katie from Alpenhaus. We've been working together for several years now. Alpenhaus is an outdoor retailer, family-owned business. She's a co-owner, and they sell everything from pools and spas to skis and snowboards, RVs, boats, campers. What am I missing? Snowmobiles. All right. Need those in Cleveland. Okay. Richard is from Excite Credit Union. They have multiple locations coast to coast, and really excited to hear and share with you his results and success stories. Jay is one of the first recipients of the award that Sandy received today, right? So Jay's been working with the DiJulius Group methodology since, about 2015?
Correct.
Healthcare, laundry, linen providers, so the largest in the country. And then Sandy from Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and they have over 2,000 sworn officers. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that Charlotte is the 15th biggest city in the country, right? Yes. So she is going to take us through what that looked like implementing some of these commandments. So just for your frame of reference, I mentioned before that not all of these commandments happen overnight, right? It takes time, effort, energy, resources to do these workshops with your team and then ultimately implement the material that you created in these workshops. So just to give you a frame of reference of what they've accomplished in the time working with us, everything from zero risk to a day in the life of a customer video, the CX action statement. These are all part of the methodology at the DiJulius Group. And this is just a visual of what they have accomplished in their own industry. So that's enough talking for me. For those of you who don't know, I am a senior consultant at the DiJulius Group, but I'm technically on maternity leave right now. So what better way to work this conference than to have my all-stars create the material, right? And I just have to be the Andy Cohen of today's sessions. Do I have any Bravo fans? I just have to ask the questions, and they're going to be the ones looking good today. So, all right, let's start with you, Katie. So you sell a wide range of products, really diverse products, right, and multiple locations. And you've been working through the methodology, as we can see. What do you feel is the biggest challenge when it comes to consistency? Because I think that's something we all struggle with. And that was even a question Dave asked his panel on main stage, is just that consistency. Like, how do you make sure it's not a flavor of the month?
That was the biggest challenge, especially initially, because with such a diverse business, we have employees that range from RV and boat salespeople to technicians to our lot crew, swimming pool installers, office personnel. We have everything under the sun. So we really wanted, when people walked into, regardless of which location or department they walked into, we wanted them to have a consistent, great experience. And that holds true for our employees too. We didn't want it to be like, oh, I want to work at this store because they're the friendly one. You should get that same experience regardless of where you are. So what we did was we had workshops. We hired the DiJulius Group, and we had a consultant come in a couple times a year where we would have workshops, and we had representatives from every store, from every department, from leadership and people that are on the front lines, so that everybody was part of the process. Because we definitely heard in the beginning, it's just the flavor of the month. Don't worry, it'll go away. And so by bringing everybody in and making them part of the whole process, then they all went out and told their teams, hey, guess what? No, this is like the real deal. Like we're actually doing this. And, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to just keep at it. Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to share with the audience some of your results from the workshop, some of your takeaways that you ended up rolling out to all of your team members. Talk to us about the never and always statements, that creation process, and I think the implementation process that was probably a little bit challenging with so many locations and different team members.
Yeah, so the first thing that we did was we did develop our service vision statement and our pillars and our always and nevers, and we created Credo cards and then posters so that we had these out at all the different locations. Every new employee received them. So that way, it's top of mind. It's right in front of them. It wasn't a set it and forget it. It wasn't, you go in this workshop and develop this and then it's like gone. We were consistently talking about these things and the tools that we developed during these workshops.
And so here's another example of the calendar and how you rolled out the material.
So what we found was that we had these workshops in the beginning, and they were really successful, but they weren't sustainable. So what I mean by that is, we would develop these tools, we'd go back, and maybe talk about them initially, but then the management team really didn't know where to go from there. So we had some managers that really, understood everything and what needed to take place, and they were training on it. Then we had other managers that didn't really know where to begin. So, I developed this calendar so that our management team knew every week we were going to focus on something different. So, we took a step back and really took, a more deliberate approach to it. And for example, we had 11 always and nevers. Each week, we would focus on a different always and never. Every single department across the whole company would be talking about the same thing that week. Mm-hmm. And then they would have to report to me what the discussion was around that. So, what does it mean to you? What happens when we all do it consistently? What happens when we don't do it consistently? Mm-hmm. And then what I would do is I would send out a recap to all of our employees every week about what the discussion was. And we found it really helped that everybody was talking the same language every week. And it helped for everybody to hold each other accountable too and make it a safe place to do so.
Yeah, I think that's really important, the consistency, so that it doesn't become a flavor of the month, so that they could see a roadmap. Like, This isn't just something we're going to talk about this week and it fizzles out, but how are you really going to make it stick, and having them be included in the process, because you can't have everyone in your workshop unless you have a small or medium-sized company. Then maybe you can, but when you have a larger organization, it's just not timely or cost-effective to have everyone in that workshop environment. So just making sure that if they weren't part of that they're part of at least, the rollout process, they could see where we're going. It's almost over-communicating to those individuals. Which brings me to your internal communication best practices. I think this was a great tool that worked really well for your team. So talk us through that.
So we were asking our team, what could we do that would make it a better place to work? And resoundingly, everybody said, if we had better communication, if we had better internal communication, everything would, it would just help everything tremendously. Mm-hmm. So we had a workshop and said, what does that mean to you? What are the things that would comprise good internal communication? And we came up with this list. And you'll see the first thing on there is, we are Alpenhaus. So, we were trying to get rid of the, I work in sales. Oh, I don't do that. I'm in parts. No, we're Alpenhaus, and the customer does not care when they walk in the door if you are the sales manager, or if you are the receptionist, or if you're the person in shipping and receiving. All they know is you are Alpenhaus, and you represent our company. So we need to act like one cohesive company who just cares about taking care of the customer and providing a great experience. So this was another example of, we took each one of these elements and focused on each one, once a week. Every week we rotated through, and, we still reference this, and we'll go back to it, and it's been really helpful.
And I love that some of these are pretty simple and pretty basic, but getting back to the basics, right? Making sure people really understand the value in something as simple as setting your email autoresponder out when you're not in the office or when you're unavailable. Like, that was a hot button for you and your team.
It was, because then, it's like you send an email to somebody and they're not getting back to you, and, you're thinking it's rude, they're ignoring you. And what you don't realize is it's their day off. Or they're away. Mm-hmm. I sent an email this morning to my management team, and I cannot tell you, I probably got ridiculously excited when I got 15 autoresponders, because I was like, yes, they all did it, So it's just such a simple communication tool. Same thing with our voicemail. If you call my voicemail right now, it's going to say that I am out of the office and I'll be back next Monday. But even if I work from home or something, I update that so people know, I might be checking my voicemail, but I'm not in the office. Mm-hmm. It's just something really simple to help with communication.
Yeah, definitely. And Jay, so you have obviously employees nationwide. How did you get to that level of consistency, just making it stick? 'Cause I know that was something that your team experienced too, is just making it stick.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we did is we always had a strong culture, and we had to weave all of the elements that we were putting out there, in addition to everything Katie said as far as training and reinforcement, is you weave it into your culture.
Yeah.
You weave it into your culture and just make it part of the normal way you do business. So it becomes as natural as taking a call from a customer. You have all these elements in it when you're taking that call. Or if you're doing something with, we call our employees associates. If you're doing something with the associates, what elements of either the service experience or associate experience can you weave into that daily activity so it becomes habit?
Yeah, and you did really well with the communication of getting all the information out there and just being such a large organization too. So, Richard, your team has had really impressive success with your NPS score, something that you and your team should be really proud of. But can you talk to me a little bit about achieving those results and what that looks like, your Net Promoter Score? So we started working together in
2019.
Yeah, end of 2019,
Yep.
early 2020, and obviously a very impressive growth. But you were a major part of that as the project lead. So talk me through kind of your 4 pillars here.
Yeah, so when we decided to partner with the DiJulius Group, we really wanted to double down on our member experience to make sure that we're actually making it a differentiator for who we are as an organization and the impact that we actually make on the community around us. Similarly to what Katie went through with as far as the workshops are concerned, we went through and developed all of our own, content, our own processes, our own training materials and so forth. And we really looked at each of the 4 things that you see up on the screen as being our cornerstones to success. And when I think about those, generally, if you just think of it like a car, if you're to go drive a car and one of the wheels on your car is flat, you're not going to get very far, right? You're not going to get to your destination. And even if you have one that's maybe overinflated, you're going to have issues with your vehicle and that sort of thing. And so when we think about a car, trying to get to the destination that you want to go, we really need to make sure that we actually had a balanced approach on the 4 different cornerstones: our service vision, member experience cycle, zero risk, and our world-class internal culture. And consistency, as has been talked about here, has been the challenge for our team as well. And it will more than likely continue to be a challenge just given some of the staffing changes that we've had and that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, you've had quite a significant amount of turnover in the executive level too, which presents its own unique set of challenges. And also you are across the nation, so you have locations in California and then North Carolina. So for those that have, in the audience that have multiple locations, what's that like, communicating that information out to really 2 different sets of cultures, not only from your members, right? The members are different in each location, so they present different needs,
Yep.
But also with turnover, I know that's something everyone can probably relate to right now too.
Yeah, so to ensure that we actually have the consistency, we really needed to make sure that it was embedded in our DNA. And so anytime someone actually starts at our organization, there is required training and certification process that they actually have to go through to ensure that they have the right, service aptitude to take care of our membership. From there, it doesn't end. There's actually 4 certifications, just like you see up on the screen, where team members will actually get certified in each of those 4 different quadrants to ensure that they're not only learning and comprehending, but they're actually taking what they learn and applying it to on-the-job performance. And it's a work in progress, I'll say. I think that this is something that, we're still talking about today on how do we know what our members will experience each time they step into a branch? What can our CEO expect if he were to just randomly show up to one of our North Carolina branches? We really are striving to hold ourselves to the highest level possible to ensure that our customer, our members are actually taken care of.
Yeah, so you mentioned certification, and I think it's important to recognize that the workshops are hard, right? Getting people in the same room at the same time, developing this content. There'll be some healthy debate in that room to finalize the material. But then you have to roll it out, right? The hard work comes after the workshop, I think. The workshops are exhausting in and of itself, but then really taking that and making sure everyone understands the material and it becomes a behavior is challenging. But then how do we know that it doesn't just go in one ear and out the other, that they're actually applying, that our team members are applying this material that we've created? It's becoming part of who we are as a culture, and we are certifying that they know it. So each of you has done your own method of certification. Do one of you want to speak to what certification looks like, how you know and make sure people are retaining the information?
So a lot of our certification, really in that sense, in the law enforcement agency I'm with, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, it really came in the sense of how do we track and account for what people are doing and show the return out in those interactions. So every officer is equipped with a body-worn camera. Okay. And that's an easy way to kind of say, hey, that's actually been used as a punitive tool kind of in the past, or a training tool. Let's actually use it for positivity. Let's use it to track those positive interactions. And just in the time that we've been tracking, we had over 4,300 positive tags where we were accounting for community engagement, a positive interaction, a de-escalation, or a life-saving opportunity. So we're able to go back and actually watch those encounters, and then we in turn reward. So the chief launched this program called Acts of Excellence, where it's not just waiting until your annual awards ceremony to give someone a trophy or a plaque, but this is an everyday, every week occurrence that if you represent this work and the customer experience work and you're living it and you're embodying it in those interactions, we recognize you. You get a certificate, you get a handwritten card from the chief, you get a coin from the chief, and that's given out in your roll calls and in your team meetings. And so that's just one way that we kind of certify and recognize that the work is being done.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. Jay, what about you? What did certification look like in your team?
Well, it depends. We made it fun. A lot of times we made it fun. The Credo card challenge is awesome. Katie was talking, you get the service vision, you get the pillars, you get these always nevers. And how do you make it fun and reinforce it? So we certified everybody in the organization on that and made it fun. There's great technology out there you can use where you catch them doing something right, or you take like a learning platform and put it in there. So I think it's a combination. Adults learn differently, so you want to bring all that stuff together to find an effective way to certify everybody in what you're trying to teach.
Yeah, I love that. It's not a one size fits all, and you have to keep it fresh over the years. You can't just certify once and hope people keep doing it for years to come. It has to be something that we constantly do. So mixing that up is a fun way to keep it alive too. So Richard, how has Excite's focus on member experience and employee experience really changed those numbers for your team?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing that I would say that we've noticed is that we're constantly looking for more data to really measure ourselves on what our member experience is like and what our team member experience is like. We've actually added a variety of just different channels over the past 36 months where we're actually capturing survey data that's actually for members coming into our branches and pressing a smiley face on a kiosk, or even just exploring other technology like artificial intelligence, where we're able to go through and listen to our phone calls to really understand overall sentiment analysis, trends, and even pain points that we're actually hearing from our members. And it's not stopping there. It's just we're continuing to look and explore, what are those additional data sets that we can learn from, understand, so that we can better take care of our members.
Yeah, I love that. And is it Happy or Not? Is
Happy
that
or Not,
the
yep.
platform? Okay, great. So Richard is the only graduate on the panel that actually graduated from our online academy. So he wasn't required to come in person to the Cleveland location 4 times a quarter, but he was able to do it at his own pace in the online academy. So what advice would you give others that are considering enrolling in the online academy?
I would say that the thing that I really liked about the online academy is the ability to actually go back and revisit, a lot of the curriculum throughout the time, because we had so many changes with key personnel at our senior level. Roles and responsibilities were constantly shifting for a little while. And so little by little, I myself have started to take on more of like the overall experience for our organization. And that's really what that has been about.
Yeah, I think that's important as people have changed roles, or always having someone own it, right? Your team was really good at always making sure things didn't fall through the cracks, even though we had some turnover, and not all turnover is bad turnover, right? But when someone's owning a large portion of the project and they leave, it was nice to have the online academy for people to really kind of button that up where we needed to, so things didn't fall through.
Yeah, and before each of the workshops that we had, I would get a little nervous. Just we wanted to make sure that whatever we're developing for our organization, it's really going to live with our organization forever. It's going to be embedded in our DNA.
Yeah.
And so to have the peace of mind knowing that I could go back and just get refreshers and a little bit more confidence, I really appreciated that.
So what was, out of these two, the whole team member experience guide, and then you have the leadership guide, which do you feel was more challenging to implement? Because I know I've worked with some companies where we do a leadership workshop, like, listen, we have these leaders, they're not going to be different tomorrow. How are we going to change the culture around this leadership? So I know that has been a struggle for some of my clients. So just, we're going to have the same people next year, likely. So how are we going to make them better? And that's that's the outcome of the leadership guide. But obviously the team member experience holds the customer experience action statement and the always and never. So which of these were more challenging for your team and why?
I would say that the member experience guide has been probably the biggest challenge, as well as like the biggest impact that we've actually had. So really getting our processes documented and ensure that our team is all on the same page. And so like at first, like that's my inclination, is where it's just like, well, gosh, that member experience is really challenging. But if you think about it, we've continued to have issues with turnover and even just employee engagement at our organization. It makes me think that like our leadership guide has, and our world-class internal culture has been one of the more challenging pieces to make sure that we have the right crew on our team with the right purpose, the right heart, taking care of our members.
Are
Okay.
you still guessing at ways to improve your customer satisfaction scores? Or how to hire and keep the best talent? Stop guessing and become knowledgeable. Join the Customer Experience Executive Academy and learn what the world-class companies already know. At the Customer Experience Executive Academy, you'll learn the methodology applied by world-class companies to create consistent, memorable moments that lead to happy customers and happy employees. Visit cxea.org or contact Claudia at DiJuliusGroup.com for more information on how to enroll.
So Jay, your journey with the DiJulius Group started with John and a keynote from John, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it started in 2015. He gave a keynote in March of 2015. I think we engaged the DiJulius Group that fall.
Okay.
Started working with Dave, and then 2016 I enrolled in CXE Academy.
Yeah.
And it was great. And so 2016, 2017 was about rolling out the program. So this map's 2016. Image First, again, national, something nobody thinks about, nobody cares about, but very important. We're the largest provider of medical linen in the United States. So think about sheets, pillowcases, scrubs. We have these plants where we process all this stuff. We have people that deliver to the hospitals and the surgery centers and things like this. So this was our map in 2018. If you fast forward to today, this is 4 years of growth. And if you go to the next slide, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
Scaling this thing, and you asked me that question earlier, scaling this thing wasn't easy. And I think we have side-by-side maps if you want to go to that, so you get some idea. Along with that, great revenue increases, the amount of locations, the amount of associates we have working for Image First. And as you see, because of our industry, as our revenues go up, the yellow line represents the number of associates we have working for Image First. So, and part of the reason, I think I was asked to be here other than make your job easier is the fact that a lot of businesses are growing. So you roll something out and then you try and scale it, and that's when the difficulty comes. So everything that we're talking about here about having structures and systems and certifications is very important. So what we did, if you go to the next slide, is we actually baked it into our strategy. So this is our one-page strategy, and you can see elements of the service strategy, the customer experience strategy, the associate strategy baked into this. And I feel like some of the things I'm going to talk about, this wasn't planned. I didn't get with the Chick-fil-A guy. But if you go to the next slide and you look at our operating principles, our donut, it's based off of Simon Sinek's concept. Our why in the middle, our purpose is to build a great company by positively impacting the lives of our associates, our community, our customers, and their patients. So we tie our why to not linen, because that's stupid. That doesn't get anyone excited. You tie it to impacting community, pandemic, great opportunity. Yeah. Tying it to patient care, our customers who take care of the patients, and our associates, obviously people who work for Image First. So, but look at the top there. What's at the top of the donut? Because the why is surrounded by the how, right? Sinek, golden circle. One of our houses, our service vision, and that's to create a positive moment with every interaction that you have. And that's not just customers, that's everybody. So it's a universal little wink, wink, universal service vision that is, vendors, associates, peers, everybody that you come in contact with. So again, baking the service strategy into our operating principles was key for us because people come on board. What do they learn about? They learn about your culture. And if your service strategy is part of your culture, great. The next slide, this is our pyramid. I don't know how we came up with this. This thing is brilliant. We're not that smart, right? But we did come up with something brilliant. This is our associate engagement and development pyramid. And it talks about, we call it our associate experience cycle, rather employee experience cycle.
Okay.
So associate experience cycle, so it's about their development. It's about those touch points. And each one of these blocks in the pyramid, ultimately we want our associates to take pride in achieving their best by owning their results. So we'll put these elements in. Again, reference this morning, if you go to the next slide. And again, they teed me up. This is brilliant. You've heard of the flywheel if you've read Good to Great or Great by Choice. There is a customer flywheel where you take someone to a stranger, never heard about image first, and then they become a prospect, then they become a customer, and then we want them to do what? Become brand ambassadors, right? So you want to do all those things as you grow.
Talk to us about, sorry to interrupt, about brand ambassadors. What is that?
Yeah,
exactly
brand
mean?
ambassadors, the great thing is, and I read this, we all know that the greatest companies, and Chick-fil-A does it, but see the way Chick-fil-A advertises, they're talking about the community, they're talking about caring, they're talking about people. They're not necessarily, they're trying to tell everybody, hey, we're a partner in the community, we want to create a great world. The best companies don't advertise. You've never seen an Image First commercial. You've never seen a billboard of Image First. How is Image First able to grow like that? Well, we have brand ambassadors. People that say, if you're going to go with a medical linen program, you have to go with Image First. And so we don't spend money on advertising. We spend money on training our teams to create brand ambassadors. And that's really neat. And again, the yin and the yang of this with associate experience and customer experience, I think it's the final slide, is the flywheel works for that too. You take people that never heard of Image First, you bring them in as a candidate, you bring them on as an associate, and then boom, they become a brand ambassador. So, you got to work at Image First. Oh, you'd never believe I got the greatest job, love what I do every day, love taking care of patients and positive impact in the community. So scaling it becomes very difficult, but when you incorporate elements into your culture, into your training, into your certifications, and you have everything sort of flawlessly blending together, it's really, really, it's powerful. And the other thing is, I really like that my pleasure thing today, because you just go to Chick-fil-A and you hear my pleasure all the time. When I was asked how long this was going to take to really get us, I think I said 5 to 8 years, right? My CEO was like, 5 to 8 years, I was like, it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So I think there has to be a patience involved where you're just continuing to reinforce daily, weekly, monthly, and anywhere you can sprinkle it into what you're already doing, it's great.
Wonderful. All right, Sandy. So obviously, I can say this, I think, because my husband is a police officer, that some of them can be a little reluctant to change. At least he can be.
Mildly. Yes, we're putting it mildly.
So, and I know that you've done some of the commandments, as you can see here, at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, kind of owning this portion and getting it rolled out to all the officers. So talk to us a little bit about overcoming that resistance or some resistance to change. And it's not unique to police officers, certainly, because I've worked with other organizations who have just had people that have been there for 10, 15, 20 years. And it's like, well, we're not going to change now at this point. So talk to us a little bit about that and what that looks like.
Sure, and I think he brings up a good point too. It's not just about the time for the work to seed. It's about the time it takes to build the work and make sure you're building it the right way. Because face it, we're all in here because we're all facing challenges. We're all facing challenges either for sales, either for service, whatever it is. Challenge is basically the base word when you're looking at building a program. And challenge is certainly what we faced in 2020 when you had the pandemic. really blooming and in full bloom across the entire country and then the world. We were in riots and civil unrest like pretty much the rest of the country. I'll go through this kind of quickly, but our elected officials wanted to take over our government. They wanted to take over our operations within our department. And that's when the whole defund and reimagine movement happened. So we had a lot of external challenges to really consider, at the time. Mm-hmm. And then when you want to disrupt an entire industry, which is what the chief wanted to do, think about the challenges there, massive challenges, and enter the DiJulius Group to help us through that and build that framework with us. But it had to be built by your people, for your people, in order to get buy-in. That's a massive challenge. Thinking about the buy-in aspect. Mm-hmm. Change is a massive challenge. You're coming in and basically telling them what they think is they suck at this. That's how it was received. So clearly you're building this training because we're terrible. And we don't think we're terrible. We think we're providing world-class service every day. And the mass majority, probably are. I mean, they do an excellent job. They do an amazing job. But if we're not consistent across every single person and every single interaction, are we truly world-class? So those were the conversations we were having. We certainly built the framework. We did workshops. We did focus groups to pull the work together. And then we leaned into those who truly were vocal about the program and they didn't care for it. They didn't like aspects of it. We changed the work. So if you have people who are vocal about it and they don't like it and you do nothing with that feedback, you fail, right? You're never going to take off with the work. So launched it in June of 2021. And if you go to the next slide, that's when we were like, yay, we made it. We did it. Woo! We made it. And then we're like, wait a minute. It actually just began. The work just began. Because now we truly have to teach it. And this is where it starts to fold into your culture. If you can't get this embedded in your culture over a long period of time and help your people know it's here to stay, it's going to fail. And when they're like, somebody said up earlier, it's a flash in the pan. Like, this is never going to last. I love Katie. Katie and I went through CXCA together. So I was always cheating off of Katie's paper. I was like, Katie, what are y'all doing at Alpenhaus? Because we're going to take it. And it all translates. It's whether it's law enforcement, whether it's active wear and sporting equipment, the work really does transcend industry. And I think it's so critically important. We launched that work and then we went back to work. We had to continue not only teaching the first iterations of our experience action statements and our always and nevers. And it's taught by our people. We didn't fly the DiJulius Group in to teach. We leaned on them for guidance and direction. And then we trained 40 instructors to go out and teach the work. And, several of them are here today. The ones who are most critical of the work, we added to the team. So in a focus group, they said, no, that's terrible. That's never going to fly. I leaned into them and said, I'm a civilian. I can't teach this work. I need you. And I added them to the team with the chief. We thought that was critically important, developed, the whole second phase of the work. You have to show a way to show return because they're going to sit there and be critical and say, but is it working? What proof do you have that it's working? In order to continue to get buy-in, we built a return on experience dashboard that we continue to work on, and it covers accommodations, complaints, survey results, the body-worn camera tags, anything you can think of. I know we've awarded over 150 acts of excellence because the sergeant's in the room who compiles the information, reviews body-worn camera, and he accounts for it in our system. So the more you can actually attribute measurement to your results. I think that that's really critically important. And we just launched our second iteration of training because we're doing Zero Risk, which is your customer recovery program. Also world-class internal culture, employee wellness, really, really important work. So our big message is it's here to stay. And if you want to show the next slide, this is really what we were hearing all over the department.
When I first heard about the CMPD service program and the customer service aspect of it, I thought it was the craziest thing I've ever heard, because we're not here to serve burgers and fries. We're here to provide a genuine level of service, and sometimes the type of service that we provide doesn't look good or doesn't even sound good, but it's what we have to do.
And that's Officer Jeffrey Joseph. He's in the room. I love him. He's 18 years on patrol, and we took him right out of patrol. I know. Give it up for him. Give it up for him. He's on our team. He teaches this work every single day at the academy. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's so cool to think through that is we're in the business of not wanting repeat customers. Okay? I mean, many of you are trying to figure out, how do we get them back? And what do we need to do? And Katie and I have talked a lot about this because we apply a lot of what Alpenhaus does too, the reinforcement work, going out and roll calls and team meetings and things like that. But we don't want people to come back. We want them to have, as the chief says, we want to be the best part of their worst day. Okay, we're a grudge buy. We know that. Nobody likes to call 911. But however, we can certainly impact how they're treated and how they experience that interaction. So, that's a certainly important message that we share when we talk about challenges is really changing the mind frame. One, we can implement hospitality practices and retail practices into what we do because it does transcend. And it's changing that mindset about how even though we don't derive a bottom line from what they do, we still can leave a positive impression that will earn a genuine thank you, which is our experience action statement.
Love that. And just making it part of the community too, right?
Yes. Yes. It's not only internally, but externally as well. When you ask them even to think about the word customer, like, what? We don't have customers. You do. I mean, that witness is your customer. The suspect is your customer. The victim is your customer. So it's a whole mind shift when you think about the vernacular and how it applies. And then you have that direct impact when they said, you've got that person for 5 minutes. What can you do in that 5-minute interaction? And how do you consistently create change? That every single interaction, that's why these guys do a lot of the teaching nonstop, because we want to be consistent with how we teach the work so that they're consistent in how they practice it.
Yeah, you would never want to create something that looks good in the ivory tower in the boardrooms and fizzles out in the cubicles, right? Because it just doesn't apply. Really well said. All right, we have a few questions rolling in. First one, as a VP of Marketing and CX, how do you manage the fine line of advertising or making awareness of your world-class customer experience to those unaware, aside from word of mouth and brand ambassadors, without coming off as tooting your own horn?
That's a good question. So initially, I have to say I only had that marketing role.
Yeah.
So that was what was different last year when I went through the CXE Academy. And I had promoted somebody as the head of marketing so that I could focus on customer experience. And so really, what you have to do is it all starts with that internal culture. Mm-hmm. Because if your employees are happy, when your customers come in, they're going to know that. And we use the Net Promoter Score. And, one of our managers that's here today, last night we were talking about it. He's like, oh my gosh, Katie, for my store, our Net Promoter Score over the last 3 months is 82. It's unheard of, Mm-hmm. And, because we're really focusing on that internal culture so that it translates back to the customer. Because you don't want it has to seem genuine.
Yeah.
And it's only going to be genuine if you're genuine with, your employees, just like Ryan talked about, you have to care about your team, and customers can feel that when they come in, and then they become the brand ambassadors,
Yeah.
So,
And I think if you're measuring those numbers, it's not really tooting your own horn, it's facts. These are our numbers.
Right.
This is what our customers are saying, right?
Right. And, and we don't have to toot our own horn because our customers do that for us. Tomorrow, our team is in Las Vegas getting an award for being one of the top 5 RV dealers in North America. There's over 2,000 RV dealers,
wow.
But we're selected in the top 5. So it speaks for itself. It's not just us saying, hey, we're great.
Yeah, and especially, I hate to bring up COVID, but your business skyrocketed in that time period. Everyone wanted an RV, right? So there was a lot of challenges
changed our business.
That totally, changed your business. So that's congratulations to you and your team. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
All right, a couple other questions. What's your recommendation to help make a case that we do need a CXO? Especially when, your Net Promoter Score is so high, our numbers are good, we're doing great. Why do we need this person?
Well, I think you don't need you're going to hate this. You don't need one, but you need someone to own it, right? I've got a lot of hats I wear at our company. One of them is this role to really build the service strategy for the company. So whether you need someone right in that spot or there's somebody that you can take that you can put through the academy or give this responsibility is really, really key. You need executive sponsorship.
Yeah.
You need somebody to wake up in the morning saying, how can we enhance customer experience today? How can we enhance our employer associate experience today? So I think, again, it goes back to the other thing. If you have everybody else bragging on you, you don't have to brag. You can be humble, right? If your employees are bragging about you and your customers are bragging about you, you don't have to sound all pompous saying we're the best. In fact, the companies say that we're the best usually aren't.
Yeah, that's true. True.
And Jess, if I can jump in on that one too, I think you also have to recognize who is the best messenger. Okay? Because it may not be you, and that is okay. It is not me in my organization. I'm one of 500 civilians. We have 2,000 sworn. So I certainly need a Deputy Chief Robinson, who's also here, to really be that shepherd on a daily basis. The chief can't do it. So you've got to identify who can be the one who has influence, who is in a leadership role, who really can live this work, believes in it. It's not just hyperbole. It's not just, because then that's disingenuous and they're going to see right through that too, right? So if you believe it and you're living it and they can strongly influence it, it's important to look at.
Yeah. I agree completely. Last question, and we're at time. I want you to have a minute or two to get to your other breakout sessions, but this is a good question. So when coming up with your always and nevers in the workshop environment, does the content come from the top down, or is the engagement and input required from all team members?
I would say for us, our CEO actually sat through the session with us, but he actually remained quiet through the bulk of the session. And I think it was intentional, where he really wanted to see what the group came up with, get us to a consensus, and then he supported and championed the idea behind our always and nevers and our pillars and our service vision. So I would say it really was a collective effort to come together to create that. And from there, we had from the CEO even to our board of directors really championing the idea behind transforming our member experience.
Yeah, if you want it to be impactful, make it collective, make it collaborative. What we did is we brought a bunch of people in from all different walks of life in our organization, and we said, if we're starting from scratch, forget about what you know about the industry, forget about what you know about our company. If we're starting this from scratch, and because of that, not only did we get great ideas that were across the board, but we got a lot of buy-in, and we got some really, really creative stuff. We actually put blank piece of paper up the wall. And anything that was closely related to our industry or who we were that was bad, we X'd out.
Wow, okay. That's awesome. Yeah, making sure everyone's opinion is valid in that room, right? People are bringing ideas, and they should be heard. So thank you so much to my 4 CXE rock stars.
My pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and are ready to think about starting your own customer service revolution. To get inspired by more episodes, subscribe now on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening and for being part of the customer service revolution.